Friday, everybody. Welcome. Today is May 3rd, the day before my wife reaches a big milestone 60 birthday. So I'm going to say happy birthday to my wife a day early because I have no plans because I've been too busy dealing with hackers the last 2 weeks. Anyway, welcome to another edition of Kiwanis Connects. I am Aaron Phillips. I'm anchoring stuff here. Of course, the beautiful lady to my left, you're right on the screen. Doc Val's with us. And we have a very special guest in studio with us today. She is also the host of a show at 11 a.m. right after Kiwanis Connects that I implore each and every one of you to watch. Permission Mission. It's okay to talk about mortality. And Mary's joined us today because, we just want to continue to share her message for a lot of reasons going around Kiwanis. Good morning, Doc Val. How are you?
Aloha. I am fabulous, and I love seeing the two of you. I figured out how to be there. So...
Well, we wish you were here with us. Just want to remind everybody, thank you for watching us on Facebook, WWDBTV page, or of course our page, which the majority of you are on. YouTube, same two channels, same name, same everything. But in a couple of days, if you have the wonderful streaming service called Roku, download the WWDBTV channel to that. Not only will you be able to watch all the shows available, the plethora of shows here on Kiwanis Connects, but all the plethora of shows that are available on the network. You can catch all the past bad dad jokes that cracks Val up at the end of every show, or you can, more importantly, though, you can just catch all the great news Kiwanis related. So how are you? How's your week gone since we last chatted, Miss Val?
You know, it has been one of those domestic weeks. We actually had to empty our pool.
No.
And no one's willing to come out as far as I live. And so Andy and I have been the cabana people. And it's not a pretty look.
Are you in there with like shovels trying to shovel the water out or something?
Pumps and vacuums and rakes and everything.
Wow.
Absolutely. You know, when you don't live somewhere for a long time, all kinds of things in your house fall apart. Yeah. And so our pool even died. And so wow. That, you know, they said it won't hold chemicals. So we pumped thousands of dollars of chemicals into it. No go. The frogs love it, though.
I was going to say, new home for the frogs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And plenty of frogs legs for dinner, too. Mary, Mary's actually with us a number of months back in January when you were about to launch the show. Correct. So Mary is no stranger to the Kiwanis Connects family here. But how are you doing since you were last year? Your show's going great, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure you're gaining traction with it.
I'm getting some really good positive feedback. I think the people from January show to now entering into May,
right?
The message has become clearer and clearer, and the practice part of us overcoming the when death or mortality or loss or tragic or any of that comes up,
right?
It's kind of like we shy down, and I'm saying, rise up.
Yeah.
Rise up. This is what we want to talk about with each other.
Just as a refresher for everybody, if you don't know, I've known Mary now 5-6 years, whatever the number is. I met her at our networking meeting here in town. She was the guest speaker at our group that day. Hearing her story, I instantly fell in love with her, Val. And you know me, I love women, so that's no surprise here. However, yes, a little bit, Val. Every once in a while, you are buffering just a tad. The beauty is I heard her message at a time when my body had some issues it was dealing with, and I was concerned. And I chatted with Mary after the meeting. We got together, and I'm very proud to say that my family is going to be well protected because of what Mary offers in support of families beyond just the Permission Mission, but her full-time job along with Permission Mission is that she works with family for planning stages when that time comes. And so as they say on TV, I too am also a client. So I'm not only proud to say that, I do business with her, but she's a friend of our families as well. So when Mary talks, you need to listen. So I share that with everybody.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping that, Mary, that we show one of your commercials along the lines here, because we don't talk about death in Kiwanis. Periodically, we'll get a pop-up that says, hey, we're so sad to announce that so and so has passed. We'll send you more information. And oftentimes there's no more information. Um, and we actually have clubs that are centered around an individual. They have no plan, even though this individual may be like 95 years old. And so that was one of the things that when I thought about, it's time to bring you back, because we've had several very significant people pass in Kiwanis where they didn't have a plan. And the clubs didn't have a plan. And so what you talk about is so important. And so I like that theme, rise up. So.
Rise up.
702-992-3207 is our number. You can call in and ask Mary any question that may be haunting you regarding what our topic is today. And you can message, of course, in the chat room. If you're watching us on YouTube, you guys already know you can put a comment in there. We'll pick it up. Again, 702-992-3207 is our number. So, Val, you just kind of touched on it, and I maybe broaden it if you can a little bit as to why the desire to have Mary on today to talk about the permission mission. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but let's dig deeper, though, based on why she's invited, as to what we're hoping that Mary can do for our individual members as well as our clubs, and really any club across the globe.
Well, it starts with my key clubs and our high school students. During COVID, I was talking to a lot of students over the internet and doing Zooms with them. And almost every single student that I talked with had experienced one degree of a person passing in their life. It was a grandparent, a parent, an uncle, a niece, somebody had passed away in their life during COVID, and people would gloss over it. And then over the last couple of months, we probably have lost 19 or 20 major Kiwanians. And I can see myself buffering with you, so I'm going to log out. But
okay.
What I wanted to talk about and have Mary talk about is how do we have these conversations? How do we get prepared? How do we celebrate? Like you notice, I'm not wearing my black shirt today.
I'm wearing gray, just for the record. I have gray on, just for the record.
Because I'm just saying, because in my family, when someone passes, you have a party, you celebrate, right? Mm-hmm. And you figure out how to honor people more. And so while I'm logging out, it's maybe leading that conversation, and I'll come back in.
Absolutely. Sure. You got
it. Thank you, Dr. Bell.
And I like what she kind of was turning around, because nowadays we hear more of these celebration of life services for people rather than funerals and memorials. So talk about that a little bit as to how this all fits, how people can do this, and how do we start talking about it?
Well, the good part is that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You now can officially say that the Kiwanis group, is now openly discussing it and boldly, proudly saying, I'm done with the silence,
right.
And how can we move past this being afraid of doing something that I don't know when it happened for someone to say that we shouldn't talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
It just did happen. And now we're saying, wait, we're taking back our lives.
Okay.
We're taking back the importance of, being comfortable enough to say, life and death are one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
What we get in between is the most important part, why we have the opportunity to, meet people, talk with people.
So is it better for someone who's going through it, who lost somebody, to reach out to somebody else, say, hey, I need somebody to talk to about this, a friend or otherwise? Or is it better for an outsider who knows that somebody had a passing to then be able to say, okay, I'm here for you. Would you like to talk? Which do you think is better, or does it really matter?
Doesn't really matter.
Okay.
What I want everybody to remember is that you can't do it wrong.
Okay.
If you're talking, you cannot do it wrong. You might hurt a few feelings. You might say the wrong thing, but we're not going to get this right until we have more time under our belt to be able to say that we've been talking to this about mortality for now 50 years. Like that'll be the exciting place to get us to, and not be afraid, just to say, look, I know I'm going to pass. I know that I have my plans in place. I know that these are my wishes. And because I have done that, if you and I have a tiff, I'm going to call you up and go, hey, Aaron,
Right.
like, let's talk about
Sure,
this.
sure.
You know, let's talk about it, even if it's uncomfortable,
Right.
because I've already had the most uncomfortable conversation in the entire planet.
Right. When you get that dreaded phone call letting you know of
Yes.
the news. You and I have had so many conversations about this, both on the air and off. Back when I was growing up, same for you, our older generations, this was a taboo conversation. Nobody wanted to talk about this, especially the male portions of the family. They were just like crawling in I don't want to talk about death. Listen,
Yeah.
mother and father time, they are undefeated. I hope everybody realizes that. Like you said,
Yeah.
we're all going to cross that bridge at some point. Why not face it as early as you can, because it's inevitable, which we all know. Not that we all don't wish to live forever, as long as we're healthy, of course.
Sure.
But that older generation just never really wanted to talk about it. So what was the change? When do you think that change might have started happening across generations to say, you know what, it's okay in general within a household, it's okay, we can do this.
Yeah.
Where you're delivering the bigger message to let everybody know, but maybe a household says, you know what, hey, let's talk about it. Somebody died. How do you feel about it, et cetera?
Yeah. Well, based on a very small study that I did of
Mhm.
about 100 people, there were only 3 people that were actually comfortable with having the discussion.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, out of 100, for only 3 people.
Mm.
So I think what happened is over the years is it just grew massive by the numbers of people that didn't want to discuss this.
Okay.
And that became more comfortable.
Okay.
That became where it was just
The
not
habit.
acceptable. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, let's not talk, let's worry about living.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if we talk about dying, it might produce it to happen. And
Mhm.
that's so far from the truth.
Right.
If anything, by not having the discussion, we've had more and more losses
Sure.
unnaturally.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Mhm.
to answer your question, I think, Dr. Val, you had said, you lost people very close to you. And, the best advice that I can give to you just by practice myself is that, give people permission to go. Was the one thing that no one ever really did for me when I lost my brother at 14. And, that would have been weird anyway if someone would have said to me, hey, they have permission to go if there's their time. But today I think we're in different times, and we are in more real times. I think people are standing up and rising up to uh, our families that are important to us, our people that we love. We're not shying down to not letting them know, without, just getting uncomfortable enough to say, look, I'm going to miss you. How can I best honor you when they pass away? What's something unique about them that you can carry on for them?
Mhm.
My brother was very adventurous. I'm not. Okay. I am about as predictable as they come. So when I'm out doing things like this, I honor my brothers who are very adventurous.
Mhm.
And that's the way that I can best say, I understand now about mortality because they have passed, like it's a real event. And because of that, I can also think about my own,
Mhm.
and then just bring some peace to that part of me being prepared, Aaron and his family being prepared, and many others out there that are finally getting on this, on board with saying, look, yeah, I can see the devastation it's
Mhm.
leaving by not
Mhm.
having the talk.
Hey, Val, I'm going to throw it back to you, but I'm going to say this live on the air so that John has a copy of it and we can show it to Eileen later on in life. But you two are my witnesses. In case my wife forgets, there's 2 things I want to make sure that go with me. Number 1, a Batman cowl better be on my head. And number 2, one of my brand new bad dad jokes better go with me as well, because I need to keep laughing. So just saying that for the record. Anyway.
I got a video that we'll put on there with you.
Okay, so we'll put the video
We'll
on.
show the video later.
We'll show it as part of a break. We'll show Mary's commercial, and then we'll come back into that video with that. How's that? All right.
I'm looking for her commercial.
Oh, well, go to her show. All right, Val, take it away before we go to break.
Well, I think it's important that we also add in the humor that goes with it. And so thank you because a lot of people were like, this is really depressing. I just don't want to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to be doing like you're doing. And Mary, we share the one thing. My youngest brother was killed when he was 15 and a half. So about 35 years ago. And going through that whole process, that's when my family first learned how to actually grieve, and kept him on the machines way too long because we didn't know how to say it's okay. And I know that, and I want to always tie this back to Kiwanis as well. And I think we all need to be able to give our members permission to leave and to go, and not keep showing up. And there's, I don't know the right language, so maybe during the break I can help come up with some better language on this one.
I think.
Well, yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you cannot do it wrong. The reason we don't do it, first and foremost, is we don't want to do it wrong and we don't want to look stupid, right? I mean, I get it. I don't either. But in this case, when all we did was love this person, and now we have some sadness to their passing, is just find the peace in it, the peace and knowing that the gift they give us is that, yes, it'll be my day one day. And also the peace that they contributed to the world, they contributed to us as a person, and then just finding that peace.
It is so crazy that I think Mary may have touched on, or Val, you may have. During the pandemic, I think this heightened awareness of wanting to tell a loved one, we love you, we miss you, because we know, we read, whether you believe it or not, it's not the political statement about what happened in the pandemic, whether it's true. I'm not saying that, but that did heighten the fact that we really should make sure we talk with our family about life in general. So if there's at least one positive that came out of all that, is that perhaps it did open the line of communication with family members to talk about mortality.
Which is kind of interesting, because when we couldn't do it is when we wanted to do it. Right. That's what the pandemic really taught us, was when it was kind of taken away from us, then we weren't able to be with those loved ones, and how hard that was on families. That was that could have been like the turning point for a lot of us, questioning, like, what is happening? Why is this happening? And, I mean, I was scared. I'm in the industry, and I was scared. I was thinking, if my time goes, at least I have my plans. But, and I wanted to bring a lot of comfort to other people, that, because people would get so stressed out sometimes that was even contributing to health issues. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we've got to slow things down, and let's just, because that really was the height for me. Absolutely. To do what I wanted to do with the permission mission, that's normalized the conversation of mortality.
I didn't lose anybody close in my family to the pandemic, but Alyssa did contract COVID a couple of times. And so your heart starts racing and you start getting nervous. But I don't know. I have thoughts in my head like you, Val. So we're going to go to break. I got to get them squared. This bingo ball cage of thoughts right now has got to slow down just a bit. So, all right, you're watching Kiwanis Connects.
This should help.
All right. So also during this break, not only are we going to show the promo for Mary's show.
We're going to show the promo on the next break.
Okay. So as I was about to say, at the end of the show, we do bad dad jokes. However, last week I teased, we found a little something on TikTok that we think is going to make everybody smile before we get to the real version of bad dad jokes later on.
Call Andy.
Call it. Yeah, call Andy, early version. All right, here we go. We'll be back in a few.
Dogs can't operate MRI machines, but cats can. Milk is the fastest liquid on earth. It's pasteurised before we can even see it. What do you call a seagull that flies over a bay? A bagel. What did the drummer call his kids? Anna 1, Anna 2. What did the buffalo say to his son when he left for college? Bison. What do you call a fly without wings? A walk. Why did the man fall down the well? Because he couldn't see that well. I don't trust stairs. They're always up to something. Did you hear about the kidnapping on the street? It's fine, you woke up. I told my doctor I could only hear buzzing. He said, don't worry, it's just a bug going round. two goldfish in a tank. One says to the other, do you know how to drive this thing?
Are you looking for someone to provide training to your staff? Do you need a motivational speaker about how to handle change? Do you have an upcoming event that needs an MC to handle those responsibilities? Well, look no further than longtime Las Vegas radio personality Aaron Phillips. I am local to Las Vegas and I can blend my talents with any audience. For more information, please visit www.aaronzauer.vegas and book me for your next event or training needs.
Oh, hi. Welcome back to Kiwanis Connects. Mary McElhattan here, host. We lost Val again. Oh, she was moving rooms. She's moving locations. Right. Mary McElhattan, host of Permission Mission, 11 a.m. Pacific time right here, an hour after we are done. You don't want to miss the show. Plus, permissionmission.com. Her seminars are up there, all kinds of videos. You can buy her book. Great lady, great person. So I wanted to share before we went to break, and I lost the thought because I was all over the place. So I'm moving. The world now knows I'm moving in a couple of weeks. We're down to Eileen only has like 39 school days left.
Wow.
So anyway, because of the plan I have with Mary through Dignity, and Dignity is a national name, is it not?
Correct.
So if I say anything wrong, please correct me. So I said to Mary, when we move, what do I do with my plan? How does it, do I still do? No, you just find an office down there, Dignity, that's involved. So we get down there. We're visiting the house for the first time back in November anyway. And I tell you, literally off the main street before we make a right and a left to get to my house, there's a Dignity office right there for me to be able to walk right into and get my plan more or less moved for servicing, I guess, through that local office. So if that's not meant to be, I don't know what is. So I know I'm covered even on the road. Plus I'm covered on the road because I'm driving.
You are. You have, when we met, Aaron, you're with your beautiful wife, we went through everything as far as your wishes.
Yep.
We made sure that I answered all your questions. You guys had thought about eventually moving on down the road, which could have actually allowed you permission to not do a plan, right? Because you're going to move and all that. And I hear that a lot. People say, oh, I'm going to move. I don't know where I'm going to be. And I'm like, hold on, let's just bring it right back here today, right? Which you guys allowed me to do that. And the important part is always thinking about today, not the future. We don't know what the future holds. And the good part about having your prearrangement is we have the network of providers across the planet to be able to, if you move, everything just travels with you, still locked in at the cost that you purchased it at.
I'm very grateful for all of that. And to know that the family was covered because like you said, something could have happened before I even move. It doesn't matter. But we're all covered. All right, Val's back with us. Val, where did you relocate to? Did you go to the game room or something?
I went to the room closest to our
router
Wi-Fi hub. Yes. Next, I'll plug myself into the router if I have to.
There you go.
Hey,
back to
we're
you,
just
Val.
grateful you're here.
Absolutely. All right, Val, take it away.
I think this is probably one of the best programs that if you wanted to bring a presenter into one of your Kiwanis clubs, I think this is probably one of the most timely and best kind of programs to bring into the Kiwanis clubs and have people actually have the conversations, talk about setting up their plans and talking with professionals like you, Mary, because you make the conversation comfortable. And I know there are a lot of professionals out there. I actually went to one when I was thinking about adopting this little girl when I was 25 years old. And that person scared me so much. And during the prep, I was just like, maybe I wouldn't be a good mom. Maybe I wouldn't be a good provider. And ultimately decided that I was not going to be the best adoptive mom because of that fear that was out there. But the way you have those conversations, it's absolutely magical. And before we left, I had shared with you that you and I share about losing a younger sibling, but during COVID, oh my goodness, I fought for my right to be around my husband when I thought I was going to lose him. And because in 2021, when everything was shut down, they wouldn't let you into emergency rooms. I looked at the doctor and I was just like, this is when I'll show up on the 11 o'clock news. And so they let me in, and they weren't sure if he was going to make it to the next day, so they let me stay over. But not everybody had that privilege during that time period. And so there are a lot of people that never got the opportunity to say goodbye. And they're feeling it now. And I think that's part of what's spiking the depression that's out there. We have a lot of kiddos that are depressed. I've got Kiwanis members that they're just disengaging completely.
Yeah.
So
I realized, even at my loss, how I shut down and how our family shut down and how it just became a very silent place, which was not healthy, and that's the part that I hope to gather all of us as saying, like, it is healthy to talk about it. It is healthy to engage in this conversation. And I think that, one of the things I've learned in the death industry that I would have never, ever learned outside of it would be that the fact that, yes, we all go, and it's every age, and it's not about how we go, it's when we go. And then the people who have had to pass alone without anybody being there, I don't know. I'm a spiritual person, so my faith tells me that nobody does go alone. I can't imagine somebody taking their last breath alone. I've heard people say that they hear their loved ones reaching out to them that have passed
I
before
smell my
them.
mom's cigarette smoke almost every day
Your
while we're
mom's
sitting watching
cigarette
TV.
smoke.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many things. So I hope that people who didn't get the opportunity, to be there with them, that they can hear this, that, they didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
When somebody passes, it's their privilege. We are all going to have that privilege. And I think we've looked at it in a different way. It's been the opposite of privilege. It's
Right.
been something where, even the person still surviving feels like we did something wrong. I sat and watched my mother feel like she did something wrong to lose her 3 children. And I'm like, this is not right. Like, we've got to shift this back to its normal place of acceptance. And we've done that. And, I'm so glad that you're hearing this mission and you're going to apply it with your people. And I'd be more than happy to do anything I can to help, let people feel more comfortable. And I think the difference between me and anybody else who does this is I'm not embarrassed by the conversation any longer. But that's with practice.
Yeah.
That has been thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of practice.
But you also
and my
spearheaded
own
it.
loss.
I was just going to say,
Yes.
you spearheaded that conversation within your own household at the
Yes.
time. So you actually
Yes.
opened up and gave permission for your family to talk about it for you, what was the most important time. I'm going to throw a curveball at John. Go ahead, John.
I just want to say next week on the Permission Mission show is a must watch. That if you don't do anything else next week, not today, but a week from today.
That's not today.
That's not today. It's a week from today.
Next Friday.
Next Friday, watch that show.
Okay, we'll get a pitch from Mary about that show, today's show, as well as next week's show towards the end.
All right, so hit me with the curveball.
I need you to set up a third microphone and a chair for our guests because both Val and Mary have spoken about the stress and the mental toll it takes for this.
I can do that.
Well, I know that's why I'm asking you to, John. So here in studio, she and I were meeting after the show to talk about some other things. But Caitlin Mullett, I met her this past Saturday at a walk for American Suicide Prevention Foundation last week. It was a big fundraiser for that organization, the people we knew. They only had about 1,500 participants and raised almost $120,000. And the Roundtable, the other show that I do, we actually sponsored the start and finish line. So when we're all talking about the mental toll that death takes and the stress and everything, she didn't think she was going on the air. I tell you right now. And I just turned to her while you guys were, but anybody, that's right. Anybody who comes on any of my shows know that when you're in this studio, there's always a small chance I'm going to get you to talk or be on camera.
Absolutely.
So I thought, she's here because she's the clinical outreach and training supervisor for an organization called Halo Health Clinic down in the medical center off of Shadow in Charleston down there. So I thought we'd have her come up maybe to address the stress and the mental side of dealing with passing, why we should talk about it versus what happens when we keep it in a little too long. And I thought while she's here, I'll put her to work. So John is just giving her some last minute instructions. I want to just comment about grieving, if I can, real quickly. Yeah. We grieve, everybody grieves differently, correct? So no one can tell you how to grieve. It's what's best for you. And somebody said, John's going to adjust the camera for us. And then also how one grieves is different, but the timetable as to how long someone should grieve or need to grieve is different for everybody. My mom's going to be 24 years in November. I still grieve her loss. I do have a regret, though, when she passed, and I think you and I talked about this. When she passed, I didn't give myself time to grieve. I went right back to work. I became the matriarch of the family now. My mom is, or the patriarch, whatever is the male guy, even though my dad is here. And I didn't give myself to grieve. So now when I get those calls from friends, or I read posts, oh, I lost my mom, a dear friend, and I'll call them up and I'll talk with them for an hour or so. And at the very end, I give them, please do yourself a favor. Don't do what I did. I didn't grieve properly. I give myself time, whatever that is, however that is, to really address it in my own emotional state. And I implore my friends and family to please find something, whatever it is, to find a way to grieve. All right. Caitlin's up here. So thank you for being ready on it.
Yeah, sure.
You didn't know this was going to happen. Anybody can be a guest.
For anything.
Well, that's
right.
good.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, Caitlin, you hear the ladies, we're talking about, it's okay to talk about death in the family when it happens, but the mental side of dealing with grieving, the dealing with a lost one, whether it's a surprise or whether you're prepping because somebody's sick and all that, can you just spend a few minutes from the mental health aspect, perhaps, as to what that toll may take on a person or family members?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it is very unique to each individual, and each individual is going to experience something different, like you said. And what you said and how you dealt with your mom passing was very similar to how my parents dealt with their father passing, where it's just I'm going to work. And I think that that's a tactic that people use in order to be able to almost avoid that emotion because it's just too overwhelming. I would say that you go through series of, grief with sadness, with anger, with frustration, and you have all these different emotions that will whir through you at different times. And I think one of the key factors that I've taken away throughout my education, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and throughout my education and experiences, both personal and in the field, I've noticed that it's really, really helpful to check in on people after that quote unquote grieving time is over, after the flowers stop arriving, after those casseroles stop coming in. And, you're people kind of just go on with their lives, but that person does not, and so I think as a community, we can really check in on each other after that time when you don't really think about it anymore, or that doesn't cross your mind every day. Even if it's a calendar invite to yourself of hey, I need to check on my friend. Because I think that really speaks volumes. And I've seen people be wow, thank you. I've been thinking about that.
That's a great point. I think the follow-up after a passing or some sort of, I think that's great because, everybody says they're going to do it, right? If you need anything, call me kind of thing, right? Knock on the door if you need some support. But, I think that follow-up, I think that's pretty key. Val, we certainly know, as you said, within the Kiwanis community, the Kiwanis family members that we've lost. And it really just brings to mind, I wonder how many other members from within that person's club actually does what Caitlin suggested, just out of habit or just on their own or whatever. It raises more questions, doesn't it, at times, for the support, because it makes it easier to do what? To talk about it if you have that ongoing support, I would think, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So,
and in addition to that, I think we do have this tendency to be I'm here for you. I'm here to support you however you need. But I find it extremely difficult to go to people when I need something. And so what does it look like to kind of have that conversation where it's not overwhelming? You're not how are you doing now? But just that nice check-in of maybe that person doesn't have the strength to initiate, I really need help.
Right.
And that's where we can kind of help each other. And just that gentle, tap on the shoulder, hey, I'm here.
I call it the sister friend check-in. I do a lot of the sister friend check-ins, and normally for me, I don't check in before the services and all of that because, as we talked about, there's piles of casseroles. There's so many flowers that make the house just not bearable. but it's couple months after, checking in and saying, do you want lunch? Can we do something? And I put on my, like you said, putting it on your calendar. I had three of my team members pass away while I was governor, and so I have on my calendar to periodically check in with their kids, because I think that's really important, because no one wants to talk about it at a certain time. And now, Aaron, you talked about there's a grieving period. I'm like, there's no period to grieving.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Grieving times for people are going to vary. And like I said, my one regret. Yeah, Elmer Fudd just joined the show, ladies and gentlemen. I have two regrets. One was, with my mom passing, I still did not grieve at the time. And that's why I think for me, Mother's Day sucks. My mom's birthday sucks even more so, because that just emotionally, exponentially just charges my emotion. And my grandfather passed away when my girls were born. We were back in Jersey, huge, terrible ice and snowstorm. And everybody was up in the town where my grandparents lived. Eileen and the kids were up there. I was in New Brunswick, New Jersey, which was maybe 30 minutes south of there. Huge storm. I get the call from my mom, and I was the only one in the family that couldn't get to the rest of the family because of the ice storm. And I had to drive home to Middletown, New Jersey. And I was in that house by myself, just totally besides myself, that I could not be with the rest of the family and properly say goodbye to my grandfather. Roll forward a couple of days. If anybody knows anything about a Jewish funeral, the body's in a very plain casket. You know this. There's no, and my grandfather was in a side room by himself where the family was, and everybody left. And I purposely lingered behind. And all I did was I just put my hand on the casket, and I actually apologized to him that I was unable to make it to the rest of the family. And that's the other regret that I have, even though I couldn't control anything. Mother Nature, I couldn't get through the ice. I was not really willing to risk doing that. Those are the two things within the grieving process. So for me, you're right, Val. The grieving process really doesn't have a period. How we handle grief, in my opinion, for me, changes every day. Does it get easier some days? Does it get harder some days? Yeah, it does. But I think sometimes the grieving helps people remember those that we've lost. I think if you don't have something, is it too easy for that person to be out of sight, out of mind? I don't want to think that, because I think of my mom and all my relatives that I grew up with that are no longer with us. I think of them all the time. But there is no period on grieving. I think that's a big message. You will know when you can move on, I think, within reason. However, when you have professionals like the two folks sitting next to me, doesn't mean you shouldn't reach out for help to just talk through that process.
Of course.
Right? I mean, we ask for help from doctors when we hurt our knee or arm or head or this or that, but we also forget that the heart doesn't necessarily need a cardiologist.
Yeah.
The brain doesn't necessarily need a neurologist. We just need to process it differently.
Yeah.
So I get off my soapbox now. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I found that, grief is, again, yes, very different for everybody. And maybe there's a part of it that by talking about death ahead of time, we'll have a better understanding about not being there at the time that your grandfather passed. There are many people, my guilt that I had not being able to say goodbye to my brother before he passed, both brothers, was so tremendous. Now, working in the industry, though, I have learned to really heal that part, because I hear the stories. I see what happens. I see how a lot of it is out of our control.
Right.
People think, like we have evidence in the world where if we talk about this, it's going to happen. No, it's the opposite. We have people who show us all the time that if they went to something like 9/11, they didn't come home that day, or they did come home that day. Like, people go when it is their time, and nobody's going to stop that unless it's
why them and not me.
Correct.
Right?
It's just not going to ever. And I, even my nieces who were murdered, and I talked about that on one of the show. The moment that my sister was on the phone with me a few months after her service, and she was wearing the pin from the memorial service, which she had worn in her store I think she wore it for like a year. But someone had come to her. she was checking somebody out and they said, you know, who is that? And she goes, well, that was my niece and her 2 daughters that were murdered. And the lady goes, oh my gosh. And my sister says, no, she goes, I understand. And thank you for that. But my nieces, you know, they had permission to go. And my sister says that we all have permission to go. And it doesn't matter how we go. It's when we go. And that's the more important message that I'd like you to hear, because my nieces still matter to this day. It's not the fact that how they died or when they die, you know what I mean? And that was a pivotal moment for her and for me, and also for my niece's mother.
Right.
Like, to hear someone say that it was their day, however it happened, is kind of just saying that it's also like the person who's still living has this authority to live still, even through the worst tragedy.
Yeah.
You know, because that is what is available for us if we can see it in a different, just, you know, add some things to the way it is now that aren't working, to some ways that can start working, and then we have more of that peace.
My mom loved monarch butterflies. And when my kids, when she
I
was
love
alive,
monarch butterflies.
and the kids saw a monarch butterfly, they didn't call it a butterfly anymore. They always called it a bubby fly.
A bubby fly.
A bubby fly.
And to this day, it still happens. All right, Val, I think I'd like to take a break a few minutes early, so we have plenty of time on the back end. Plus, if Caitlin wants to escape without us looking, she's more than welcome to, or she's welcome to stay here till the end. But if that's all right, let's step aside for our last break.
Sounds good.
Excellent. You're watching Kiwanis Connects. More with Mary and Caitlin and Val. Permission Mission. More to come right after this.
Hello, my name is Mary McElhattan. I am the host of the Permission Mission Show. We air every single week on Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific time with the WWDBTV.com and also my Permission Mission Facebook page. Permission Mission is a platform that we are able to talk about mortality openly, boldly, bravely, because it is something that's happening all the time. And to know more about it is going to help every family out. Thank you for joining me again, Mary McElhattan, the host for the Permission Mission Show.
The Kiwanis Club of Folsom Lake is a group of fun, passionate people from all different backgrounds and interests who are dedicated about making our community a better place for children. We have 3 fundraising events throughout the year which allow us to support an after-school program for disadvantaged kids, high school scholarships, sponsors Key Club in high schools, and supports the Kiwanis Family House, which builds a supportive, healing community around families who are impacted by medical emergencies. Come check us out by visiting our website, www.folsomlakekiwanis.org.
All right, welcome back to Kiwanis Connects. Officially, you didn't see us blipping between the 2 commercials. Nah, it was just a figment of your imagination.
That was a glitch in the matrix.
That was a glitch in the matrix. Universe number 4, Earth 4. All right, we're coming around the clubhouse turn. You know who I am. Doc Val's there to my right. Mary McElhattan, host of Permission Mission, which will be coming up in an hour and 15 minutes at 11 a.m. Pacific. I'm going to have her talk about today's show, and apparently there's a hootenanny of a show next to hootenanny. Who says hootenanny? I don't know why I just said that. Next week's show, she'll talk about it. Of course, joining us at the last second, Caitlin Mollett. She is a clinical. What's your title again? It's like as long as the road.
I know. Clinical outreach and training supervisor.
There you go. At Halo
Mental Health Clinic.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I know I got the Halo part because I'm an angel.
Yeah, that's all you need. Yeah.
Anyway, hey, just want to let everybody know I got them right here in my hot little hand. Today's bad dad jokes are ready to be fired. But more importantly, run. Now's your test. I'm giving everybody a heads up. Get Andy on the horn. I know he needs time. All right, let's talk about Permission Mission just for a couple of minutes. Talk about your show today at 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific. That's another plug. And next Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific, right here on WWDBTV. See how I do these plugs? Talk about your show today and next week.
Today is about why is it so difficult to address mistakes? Why is it hard to admit to mistakes? And it is going to be an interesting point of view.
Okay.
Again, relatable to the permission mission part of it,
Okay.
normalizing the mortality conversation. And I think it's just powerful to be able to have different avenues to take this conversation rather than it just being about death.
Okay.
It's not about that. It's about ways that we can improve our living,
Okay.
ways that we can be more prepared,
Mhm.
and also ways that we can be able to call that person that will feel uncomfortable after a few months of a service because we are back into our own lives.
Yeah.
We're not thinking about that funeral service anymore. We were
Yeah.
there and then now we're out of it,
Mhm.
but the person's still in it. So, just learning ways that we can feel okay, show up at their front door. It will be embarrassing, but get over it because
Yeah.
what's the least they can tell you? I'm just not up for you today.
Mhm.
And that's totally
And
fine.
that's okay.
Yeah.
At least it's some connection. At least
Yeah.
it's that person will go back and go, wow, they came all the way over just to say hello.
Yeah.
And these are the things that we can learn by having open discussions. Next week is going to be really awesome because you're going to see me actually having a conversation with my children. So opening
Cool.
it up with the children and
The
the
ladies?
family.
Nice.
The ladies
Looking
that,
forward to it.
The
yeah.
ladies, yes.
Are they
So
making a return visit or is this an encore?
it's an encore.
Excellent. Because when that show aired, I was in the airport leaving to go back east, so I couldn't catch it. So
Yes.
I'm glad to know that that's an encore presentation with Mary and her daughters talking about
Yeah.
the permission and how they've changed over the years. At first, they didn't want to, and then they see what mom's doing and something. So anyway, so stay tuned for next week. This week, I never make mistakes. And the last person who said that to me, your first mistake is saying you never make mistakes. So I'm covered.
Mhm, mhm.
All right. Dog Val, back to you.
Well,
We
one
have-
of the things
about 10
that
minutes.
one of the things that I wanted to really talk about is when we're giving permission and having these kind of conversations, it's talking about how I would like for our clubs and our members to be talking about how do you want us to celebrate you? What do you want to be remembered by? What do you want your legacy to be? It's kind of like, Aaron going, I really want to make sure that I've got my is your Batman
My Batman cowl.
cowl. Okay, your Batman
Courtesy of Douglas Chadwick, by the way.
Yes. Douglas gave you a lot of amazing presents. And, but it's having those kind of conversations because right now, one of the things that we're dealing with is in the Philippines, we had this amazing past lieutenant governor who passed away, and she was in the process of starting libraries for underprivileged kids. And she was right in the middle of her third library, and everything just stopped. And that was because no one else knew what was going on with her projects or how to make them happen. And so now we're 2 months into it, and none of the books that are stored somewhere in her family's house are actually in the libraries that need to be there. There's a lot of planning that needs to happen with each one of us. And so where do we start? If we have a couple minutes to say, where does a club start? Where does a family start the conversation? So.
First, by acknowledging that it's I, like the I will go one day, and we're all in this together, because it's very easy to talk about somebody else their passing. So it's just coming from I first. That's the best place to start. Is I want to just share about what is important to me, even if it's uncomfortable. Just this is important to me, and then as collective, like my first advice tip is just go visit a cemetery. Just go visit a cemetery. Take 5 minutes and walk around. I promise you, like it is a place that brings you, it just centers and grounds you to where you're like, wow, there's a lot of people here. There are a lot of people that visit people here. It opens your mind up to this educational part that we don't think about, because we're only there for a few minutes and then we leave, right? So spend a few minutes at a cemetery. I mean, collectively as a group, just go and visit the local cemetery and then go have coffee after and see what comes up for you, because that is a really great place to start. Or even
one of our clubs actually meets at a cemetery.
Okay.
And during COVID, they found that there was no restrictions on spacing. Everything's outdoors. And so during the whole COVID time here in California, the Bay Osos Kiwanis Club actually met at a cemetery. And when they do their installation transition, it's at the community room at that same cemetery. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
What would you guys say to someone who is nervous to do that? Like, I'm thinking of like, okay, like the advice is to go to a cemetery and to process that. How do you begin to be able to get the courage to go and do something like that if you do have this preconceived fear around it?
Well, the best place is just to show up with somebody like a professional like myself and let me be the one to guide you, just to say and walk you through what thoughts are coming up for you. Just trust the process, and it's practice, though. It will get uncomfortable. I mean, I had been in the industry for several years before I actually sat down and wrote out my contract for my pre-planning wishes. And I couldn't hold back the tears. I couldn't hold back the fact that I'm kind of signing. It's like I'm signing my life away right now.
Literally.
Still alive, but the feeling after it was where all the courage came to live.
Wow.
Interesting.
And I was going to say, for our key clubbers, May is Remembrance Month, and we have Memorial Day at the end of the month. And so for our high school students who have this preconceived scary movie image of a cemetery, that instead of doing a beach cleanup, maybe it's doing a cemetery beautification, or going to where there are columbaras and doing the honor of cleaning the fronts of the columbaras at this point in time. But doing it as a group, not as an individual, takes a lot of the scary factor out. And I think that I used to assign my students to do things like that as extra credit when I taught death and dying. And they would come back and say, wow, I realized that when I'm looking at people's ages and their statements on their headstones and those kind of things, that, I really need to get my stuff together. Or, I don't take life very seriously. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's beautiful that you do that, Dr. Val. I think it's a wealth of knowledge. Like, it's a library outside that you just show up and you're just, all of a sudden it's teaching us. They are teaching us. These are those gifts that we can receive by seeing how precious life is, not just a throwaway word, but also there's a lot of, I spoke for a senior class before COVID. It's been very difficult to get back in after COVID. Like you said, everything's changed. But I spoke for a senior class, and the purpose was for them to understand, obviously, death is a real thing. If you're going to drive 100 miles an hour, you might want to consider not being at our location sooner than you want to be.
Sure.
But I made it more of the permission mission part, that we all have permission to go, and it's important we just talk about it even when it's uncomfortable. And there were several seniors that came up to me and just sobbed in my arms and said, I lost my mom 7 years ago, and no one's ever said anything. No one's ever said that death is like part of life, or that it's something that's going to happen. And it's not people's fault. It's really not people's fault. It's just a whole topic that just kind of went to the wayside as life continued to fill up with more people, more things, more this, more that.
Yeah.
And that's all that's happened. We just want to take it back.
The one thing that I like about doing the funeral, the cemetery, the people who were there laid to rest generations ago, they don't have anybody else to go visit them anymore because their next generation has passed and so on.
Wow.
And I can't imagine how many of those souls haven't been visited in any way, shape, or form for maybe tens of years. And to go in as a group to do these kind of things, all of a sudden you could be working on a headstone or something of someone who hasn't had a visitor in 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's the advantage to the soul of that person, knowing that somebody's there, even for 5 minutes, to do something, not even to talk, but to clean up around. I'm thinking about that. That's got to be a great residual effect for those individuals. Yeah. We're down to a couple of minutes, Val. Do you have anything for Val on the road? Do we have to rev up the pink car?
Absolutely. Just really quickly.
Here we go. Rev it. Take it away.
I love it when I see a little pink car. I'm so excited because one of my two favorite clubs that I belong to is having their annual event tomorrow. And most people say, where's Turlock? But Turlock is where it's going to be at. It's called Maytini. And so we're doing a great big fundraiser because we give out almost $200,000 a year to special programs and kiddos in the greater Turlock area. And so that's where I'm headed tomorrow. And then all of next week, we will be having a ton of meetings talking about realignment. And it's not realignment of our divisions, but it's realignment of our regions. So if you're not a part of that conversation right now, we are looking to go from 16 regions down to 13 regions. And we don't talk about loss. A lot of people are fighting just the concept. And so we need to talk about what it means to us all. So thanks for letting the little pink car show up, Aaron.
And if, as a precursor to that visit, I invite everybody to go back to last week's Kiwanis Connects show because we had Gary Graham on, we had Ben Hendrickson, and that is one of the things about the reduction from 16 to 13 that we were talking about last week. Mm-hmm. So go back to last week's show and check that out. Very important stuff. Get out to Denver, folks. That's the bottom line as well, where all this will be discussed. All right, before we wrap up, there was one thing during my term as lieutenant governor with Mark, and I've referenced this a few times, that I absolutely love this poem, and I'm sure Mary knows it. I'm sure many of our viewers know it. It was written by Linda Ellis, and it's called The Dash. And if everybody will just implore with me the 2 minutes to read this, and then I'll get into bad dad jokes. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash in between those years. For that dash represents all the time that they spent alive on earth. And now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the cash, the house. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. If you could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real and always try to understand the way other people feel and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering the special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? All right. I want to let that settle in, especially the part about rearrange, because I looked over at Mary, because that line, this is the person that can help you at that part of your life if you're not sure. Okay. I don't want to end the show on that kind of note, which means it's time for bad dad jokes.
Oh, your mic's off.
All right. I need an intro. We got to put an intro together. She gets a pink car. Give me at least a clown with carnival music, something. I don't care.
That clown.
Get a clown. There you go. All right. I have a couple, so bear with me as I'm wrapping up these pieces of paper before I get into the books. What John is laughing. That's never a good sign. Well, it is. It shows he's alive, I guess. There is a bad dad joke about why cemeteries are crowded, but I won't go there.
I have the perfect intro.
Oh,
I'll
God.
have it ready for next week.
Oh, I can hardly wait.
Cool.
It'll probably be like car crashes. And everything. Here we go. He's going to. Show will sign off. He'll still be laughing at Mary's show at 11 o'clock. Don't worry about it. All right. Here we go. Joke number 1. What do you call a belt made of watches? A waste of time.
Oh,
See, as long as I get Val to do that,
A
then I'm
waste.
good. What do you call 2 monkeys that share an Amazon account? Prime mates.
no.
Yes, folks, I went there. I certainly did. How do you get a good price on a sled? You have to bargain.
Oh, you have to toboggan.
Okay,
You
that one
have to
sucks.
toboggan.
I won't tell that one anymore. How do lawyers say goodbye? We'll be suing you.
Oh,
Hope none of our Kiwanian lawyer friends are watching. I apologize. But I just read them, folks. Don't kill the messenger. Why are elevator jokes so classic and good? Because they work on so many levels.
oh,
Oh,
that's a good one.
these are painful.
Careful, lady. Andy just chimed in. I didn't see what his message was there.
Yay for bad dad jokes. I think he meant
BFJ.
BDJ.
Well, the F may have a whole nother meaning moving forward. We may have to rename the segment now. Anyway, I got that.
Never mind.
Oh, no. Which state has the most streets?
Which state?
Has the most streets. That's correct. If you're thinking too long, it's Rhode Island.
Rhode
Island.
Oh, yikes.
Last 2 for all you water folks out there. What did the fish say when he hit the wall?
Damn.
Damn!
Oh, there you
All
go.
right, one for Kaylin.
Good job. Good job.
Last one. Is this pool safe for diving? It depends.
It depends.
Oh no.
It depends.
Folks, Abraham Lincoln wrote them. I just read them. You know what I'm saying? All right. With that, we've thankfully are coming to the close of the show because of the bad dad jokes. But
We came to the close of the show 10 minutes.
I know we did. Yeah, I should have ended it with a poem. I know. I realize that. How to end the show with seeing Val just crack up every week. That's the beauty of what we do here. We talk about serious stuff. Like today, we always talk about serious stuff, the Kiwanis world, but today kind of reaches outside the Kiwanis world as well. But you know what? Tend the show with some laughter, whether you like the jokes or Tracy McDonald. Oh boy, thank you, Tracy. Love that. But at least Andy's happy. He's renamed the whole segment BFJs. You can leave that for whatever it's worth. Caitlin, thank you for jumping up.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Love surprise appearances. Of course, as always, Miss Mary, 11 a.m. in less than an hour. Join Permission Mission.
Is that today?
That I hope so. I think she paid you
Today.
for it, or she gave you cookies or something. I don't know. Whatever she did. Val, final thoughts.
You know, I am so excited that we have started down this path. Mary, I want to thank you so much for being a part of us. And, you know, you can always be my special guest anytime you want to pop in, just let you know. Because we're at this point in our lives where we need to be given permission to have those hard conversations. So I'm going to use your tagline, let's rise up and make it happen.
Rise up.
Do you have that patented, by the way,
Rise up.
trademarked or something?
I don't.
You might have to fight Hamilton for it, but that's okay. I'll fight for this one. All right. As always, everybody, thank you for watching Kiwanis Connects. We went a little long. That's okay. That's my fault because you all love jokes. That's fine with me. Anyway, Val, as always, love you. Have a great week. Gary, thank you, Gary, for checking in. That's one of our trustees. He was on the show last week. Thank you so much, everybody, for following. Please reshare the link, like us, post your comments.
Wait, is he in jail?
Who? Gary Graham?
Yeah.
I hope not.
No. Different Gary, different Graham.
He's making a bad dad joke. He said, I thought you said he was the trustee or something.
He is. He's one of the trustees that, anyway, for me to have to explain this to him, and he's a Kiwanian and was here last week.
Oh.
Anyway, hey, this is a good time to say be kind to everybody. Why? We're all happy. See you next time right here on Kiwanis Connects. Thank you, everybody.
Take care.